fastest teams to practice today. Kyle
Casey Kane, we congratulate him, his third career pole.
It's all three Hendrick Motorsports in the front.
There's a few movers and shakers out there.
Carl Edwards free falling for a couple.
To victory lane is Joey Logano.
Get the inside line on who's fast and who's last before setting your NASCAR fantasy race team lineup this weekend. This is the Inside Line on MRN.com. Presented by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your fantasy experts, Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Phoenix version of the Inside Line. This is Robbie Mays. I'm Tyler Burnett. We're here to talk fantasy racing as we do each and every week. Coming up shortly at 12:30 Eastern Time, we'll have NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice here on MRN.com. But right now, Robbie, storylines about fantasy. The storyline last week was I had a good week last week. 29th out of 150.
I'll admit, I'll go on record right now. You had a very good week last week, and I had a very bad week last week. I was going to have a good week last week. Unfortunately, Brian Vickers, the 14 car, had some mechanical issues, so I lost 17 points based on where they started to where they finished last week, which I would have been top 80, I think. But instead I finished 130-something. But still, it's better than I did in Atlanta. Yeah, we gotta start doing better every week.
If we're going by would have happened, if Kyle Busch would have won the race at the end, I would have finished 6th or 5th, something like that, out of all those people, and that would be quite an accomplishment. But, of course, Kyle Busch did not win the race. Brad Keselowski did. And what a win for Team Penske.
Yeah, it was a good win for those guys. It's been a long time since Brad Keselowski was in victory lane, at least in the Sprint Cup Series, Fontana last spring. So it had been 33 races since they had won a race. And we have Joey Meyer, his spotter, in here every Monday on MRN Motorsports Monday. And I know they've been frustrated because they finished second a lot of times. And what's worse than that is that their teammate won 5 races last year, or 6 races last year. So they were happy to get back into victory lane. And they're going to be good at Phoenix this weekend, too. We'll talk about Brad coming up shortly.
Here's a cool stat for you. When you think Phoenix International Raceway, Kevin Harvick automatically jumps to the top of the list with 7 wins. A couple weeks ago, we had Mike Ford on the show from NASCAR IMC. They call him Loop Dog on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. And he's basically a fantasy stat guru. He says his favorite stat is driver rating, which I personally like driver rating as well, and so do you. Who has the highest driver rating going into Phoenix this weekend?
Well, I'm going to cheat because I've got it sitting right here, and all of this information can be found at MRN.com. Jimmy Johnson has the best driver rating right now at 112.6. Kevin Harvick is only at 109.9, so that's a little bit of a gap right there. And as surprising as Kevin Harvick has been the last 10 races at Phoenix, it's still the Jimmy Johnson show out there.
That's a tease for you. Coming up on the show, we'll give you our fantasy teams. We'll also talk storylines ahead of racing in the Valley of the Sun. Plus, MRN pit reporter Winston Kelley will join us. He's also the executive director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He's also a fantasy guru, so we can't wait to talk to him. We'll be back shortly with our teams here on the Inside Line.
Tyler and Robbie will be right back to talk more fantasy racing here on the Inside Line.
Luke Bryan.
Yeah, that's my kind of night.
Jason Aldean.
Let's get this thing started. It's my kind of party.
Florida Georgia Line.
This is how we roll.
Kid Rock.
All free.
Lady Antebellum.
Long stretch of love.
Willie Nelson.
Mama, don't let you
And so much more. Get ready for the first ever Country 500. The Great American Music Fest at Daytona International Speedway. Plus Little Big Town, Lee Price, Tyler Farr, Trace Atkins, and more. Memorial Day weekend, May 27th, 28th, and 29th. 3 awesome days and nights on the infield of the World Center of Racing. Stay in the campgrounds inside the festival. For tickets and information, visit country500.com. Don't miss Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Florida Georgia Line, Kid Rock, Lady Antebellum, and many more at the Country 500 at Daytona International Speedway. Sponsored in part by Budweiser.
The 2016 drag racing season is off and running, and MRN Straight Line is your weekly source for everything NHRA.
Hey, Erica, so you were in a Chevy for a long time, and now all of a sudden in a Dodge.
We've had to build an entire new engine program at our shop.
Join Marty Huff and Doug Herbert every Thursday at noon Eastern on MRN.com, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts and Hercules Tires. It's the Straight Line, only on the Motor Racing Network. We now return to the Inside Line with Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
Join the 850 others who play in our NASCAR Fantasy Live League. The league will be open to the public all year long. We recognize winners each week on the show. And congrats to Alan Clayton on the win last week. He had Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Jimmy Johnson on his team, along with Danica Patrick and Matt DiBenedetto. But, of course, Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson were the two that you must have had on your team last week to win in Las Vegas.
Yeah, those guys were the class of the field a week ago. And through 3 races this year, obviously Daytona, you can kind of throw that out as an outlier because it's a plate race. But Jimmy Johnson, he obviously won at Atlanta last week, and he finished 4th at Las Vegas last weekend. So they're obviously back to where they were. The problem is this time last year they did the same thing. They won at Atlanta and had a strong run at Las Vegas. And then they struggled a little bit down the stretch run, and they were out the first round of the chase last year. So, but still, the 48 car is still the class of the field each and every week. Obviously, he's on my team. I think he's on your team this week as well. So, spoiler alert right there. But Jimmy Johnson's good.
All right, Phoenix. You know what was interesting? I went to a tire test on Wednesday at Charlotte, and Brian Scott, Martin Truex Jr., Jamie McMurray all addressed the media, and they talked about how fast this racetrack is for how small it is. And when we go to tracks like Martinsville and Bristol, the aero package isn't going to be such a big deal because aero on a slower track isn't a big deal. But he thinks, well, Jamie McMurray specifically thinks that this is going to be a faster racetrack this week, and we're going to see aero come into play. Also, tires are going to come into play. It's a pretty older surface there as well. It's in the desert, it's dry, and it's going to be warm. It's going to be very nice. So tires will be a factor. So those two storylines are going to be ones that you need to watch moving into the weekend. You said you had Jimmy Johnson on your team. How about your second, third, fourth guy, whoever you want to say? Who's on your team?
Well, Jimmy Johnson, it will start with him. He's a 4-time winner here. He once had a streak of 12 straight top 10 finishes at Phoenix. That included a streak of 10 straight top 5 finishes at Phoenix, and that included his 4 wins. But the number 2 guy on my team this week is going to be Kyle Busch. I've got him for $27.50. He's up 50 cents now to $28 on NASCAR.com. 21 starts at Phoenix. He won here once. That was in the fall of 2005, so it's been a long time since he went to victory lane here. He has 13 top 10 finishes, so that's 62% of the time he finishes in the top 10 at Phoenix. That's pretty good numbers in my book. 510 laps led, which is 8th best all time. His average finish and his 10-race average finish are the same. They're at 13.8, and his driver rating is 5th best. The numbers say he's due for a good race here. His top 10s have come in the last few years. They've come in pairs of 2. So he has 2 good races, and then he struggles a little bit. I know that's weird, but that's a pattern that I've seen develop out of Kyle Busch at Phoenix. Finished 4th last fall, which propelled him into the Final Four at Homestead. So I think he's due for another strong run this weekend.
In my opinion, Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson are guys you have to have on your team moving forward. And the reason why is the past 2 weeks, and even at Daytona, Kyle Busch has been in the top 10 in fantasy points. He's also been in the top 5 in the last 2 weeks. And more specifically, he was number 2 last week and number 3 the week before. So Kyle Busch has grown 50 cents in NASCAR.com. He's worth, 50 cents more than what I have him on my team. Also, Jimmy Johnson has as well. So those guys are growing in value. If you locked him in early in the year, you need to keep him. So Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch are both on my fantasy team. Going into this weekend, there's one guy that must be beat. There are 2 drivers with driver ratings of over 100 in the field, and that's Kevin Harvick and Jimmy Johnson. Kevin Harvick is on my team this week as well. So my top 3, putting all eggs into the basket at the top 3 spots, which worked out for me last week, Kevin Harvick is number 1, Jimmy Johnson 2, and Kyle Busch number 3. So going off of that line, Robbie, who's your third guy and your top 3?
Well, it's not Kevin Harvick. I'm going with Denny Hamlin, picking him up, I think, for the second time. I had him in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. 21 starts, he's won here one time. That was in spring of 2012. So that was after the reconfiguration. And a lot of the times when I look at Phoenix, I look before the reconfiguration and post reconfiguration, which happened in between the races in 2011. But Denny Hamlin, he's won there in the spring of 2012. He's got 9 top 5 finishes, 11 top 10 finishes. So it's about half the time he's in the top 10. His average finish overall is an 11.4. He was 8th last fall, but he was 23rd last spring, which it's not concerning to me because that was a different rules package. It was a different time, and Denny, I think, has gotten better since this time last year. His driver rating is a 95.1, which is 6th best overall. And, yeah, they struggled in Atlanta and Las Vegas, 16th in Atlanta, 19th last week. Maybe a Daytona 500 hangover, I'm not sure. But we're off the high-speed, high-banked ovals for a week. So maybe a flat, shorter track might come into Denny's, that might be in his wheelhouse. 13 of his 27 career wins in the Sprint Cup Series have come on flat racetracks. So yes. I like that number. I like Denny Hamlin when we go to a short, slick, flat racetrack.
I also like Joe Gibbs at short tracks last year. They were nearly won every single short track we went to, including Martinsville and Bristol and anywhere else that we went, though Bristol's not flat, but Phoenix fits right into Joe Gibbs' wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
But it also fits in the wheelhouse of Kevin Harvick, too.
Sure.
So, and Team Penske, for that matter. So those guys are who you need to look out for going into this weekend. My 4th pick, I think, is a very good value pick, and that's Ty Dillon. He's driving for Tony Stewart Racing because Bass Pro Shops is on the car this weekend. He costs $12.25 in NASCAR.com. That car is very, very good, and Ty Dillon is getting more experience. He's been on this racetrack in the Xfinity Series. Ty Dillon could be a good value pick at the 4 spot on your fantasy team. Right?
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. Last week they had mechanical problems, but that's still a good choice. 4th in my lineup this weekend is going to be Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at $14.75. This is one of his better racetracks. 6 starts here, 5 top 20 finishes. He was 41st last fall, but he was in a crash in the rain-shortened race. He's having a pretty good start to 2016. I hope I'm not jinxing him right now, but I like Ricky Stenhouse this weekend.
And my final pick, 5th, is Michael Annett in the 46 car. Hendrick Equipment, as Alex talked about last week, they could get you a good value pick as well in the C-list category.
And my final spot this week is going to be Josh Wise. He's at $4.75. He dropped a quarter, so I dropped him from my team and picked him back up again, and I picked up a quarter.
All right, there you have it.
Economical.
We'll recap our picks later on in the show, but after the break, we'll talk to Winston Kelley, lead pit reporter on the Motor Racing Network, also the executive director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He'll give us his picks next.
We'll be right back in just a moment to talk more fantasy racing with Tyler and Robbie here on the Inside Line.
Be the winner of your next family dinner. Choose Creekstone Farms Premium Black Angus Beef, proud sponsor of MRN. Act fast because while supplies last, you can get 2 delicious beef brisket flats for just $79.99. That's a savings of almost $30. Plus, receive free shipping with your online order of $100 or more. No coupon code required. Get first place taste with our superior quality beef and pork products, all raised and grazed in the USA. Visit us today at creekstonefarms.com.
Big news, fans of not boring things. NASCAR is coming to Phoenix for spring break. What's that going to be like? Imagine Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Don't Hate the Champion, Hate the Game, Bush, barbecuing, camping, live racing, getting caught up and cheering way louder than you expected, tailgating games, unofficial night games we can't really talk about, live music, fist pumping, chest bumping, holy Harvick, how have we not done this before? The Good Sam 500, March 11th through the 13th. For tickets from only $25, visit phoenixraceway.com.
Race fans, you know there's nothing like the power, excitement, and sounds of NASCAR. Ever wonder what it would be like to strap yourself in the seat of an authentic NASCAR race car? You can do it at the Richard Petty Driving Experience. Ride along or drive yourself at one of 15 tracks nationwide. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit online at drivepetty.com. Richard Petty Driving Experience. It's authentic NASCAR entertainment. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit drivepetty.com to reserve your experience.
Now it's back to Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett on the Inside Line.
Motor Racing Network's live coverage of practice will be coming to you shortly at 12:30 Eastern Time right here on MRN.com. But right now we're joined on the hotline by lead MRN pit reporter and the executive director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Winston Kelley. Winston, how are you?
I'm doing great this morning, guys. Hope you are.
We are. We talked to Alex last week, Alex Hayden that is, a little bit about fantasy racing. But a lot of people don't know this. You're actually an avid fantasy racing player. We talk on the truck every week. We kind of mess with Alex a little bit about his fantasy picks, and I come to you saying, who should I start this week, Winston? So first off, let's start there. Who are you going to start in Phoenix?
Well, I love doing fantasy racing. This is my first year doing the actual NASCAR fantasy game. I've been doing Yahoo in a couple of different leagues, so now I'm doing both. So I'm getting acclimated to the new league, and I would say I may not be the best person to go to. I've started off horribly, even though last year I had a pretty good year. But I don't see how you can't leave Kevin Harvick on the bench. I'm one of those that believes if you're going to be the man, you got to beat the man. And even though he finished second in the fall last year, he still had the best car, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. happened to be out front when we had the rain. So with his recent history, I think you got to start with Kevin Harvick.
That's right. And that was going to be my first question. And don't worry, Robbie hasn't started well either. And he has he has a fantasy show.
Yeah,
so.
I'm the host of the show, and I haven't had a great start to the season yet. Winston, last week Alex said that sometimes when you go to him for advice, he's not always truthful with you. First of all, did you know that? Second of all, are you going to keep going to him now that you know that?
Yeah, I'm going to keep going to him, but I'm going to make sure I don't follow his lead. So, we have a good time with it, and we have the best time with it on our two-way channel that sometime when the play-by-play is going on, if somebody I've picked has a problem, I'll go on the channel and say, I know why he had a problem. And Alex says, did you pick him? I said, yep, that's happened several times. But I will say last year in my two leagues, I finished fourth in one and won one. But this year I started out particularly bad. So, we'll try to rebound.
I know it's tough picking early on in the weekend, and this show is being recorded before Friday, but, of course, it's being aired Friday. How do you go into a weekend ahead of time like this? And you mentioned Kevin Harvick as your lead guy, but in NASCAR.com Fantasy Live, you basically have to pick 3 A-listers, a B-lister, and a C-lister. So who do you look at going in early on in the weekend before any practices?
Well, the first thing I do is I go back and look at their history at the racetrack and what they're doing this particular year. And you're right. Early in the season, it's very difficult. In some leagues, you can only use them a certain number of times, so you want to allocate some of your better drivers to later in the year. But in NASCAR.com, you certainly can pick the same guy every single week. So I look at both history at the racetrack as well as what they're doing this year. And I heard you guys mention earlier about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at 1425. He actually was one that I'm planning to start in both leagues because I think, as a B-list driver, and it's a great value there. Austin Dillon has started out extremely well this year, so I think he's one to look at as well as Chase Elliott in the C list as well.
Yeah, that's right. Those are very good picks. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, too, Cole Pern will not be on the box in Phoenix this week. He was at the tire test in Charlotte, but he's not going to be in Phoenix. He'll be kind of working behind the scenes. Todd Barrier will call the race, is what Martin Truex Jr. called it, so he's not going to be the crew chief. If you look at their numbers, they're staggering between when Cole Pern's on the box and when Todd Barrier's on the box. Is that something you need to look at going into this weekend for Martin Truex Jr.?
Yeah, I think anytime that you have a change that you want to be at least aware of that. And, being where Martin Truex Jr. is, depending on the leagues, in some he's in an A category and some he's in a B category. And I would probably take a break from Martin this particular weekend. He's been solid at Phoenix, but he's not been great. Just looking down through the history, he's got one top 5. He's got about a half a dozen top 10, so it's not one of his strongest tracks anyway. So for a combination of those reasons, I'm not sure Martin is who I would lean toward this particular weekend.
Winston, it's obvious that everybody is leaning towards Kevin Harvick this weekend as the winner. I want to talk about Jimmy Johnson for a minute. Won in Atlanta 2 weeks ago, finished top 5 at Vegas last week. Obviously, he's going to be a start this weekend, but where are they as a team right now compared to some of the years in the past when they won championships? Last year, they're knocked out of the chase early. Where are they now as compared to, say, 2010 or 2011?
I don't think anybody is where they were back in 2006 through 2010 when they won all those championships. They just had that chase format just worked so well for them. If you look at it from a fantasy pick standpoint, He's got the best average finish at 7.7 at Phoenix. So if that's what you're looking at versus a win, and he's been solid. He's got 4 wins there, but if you look recently, he's not as strong as Kevin Harvick. If you're looking at 2 A guys, Jimmy Johnson is certainly one that you'd look at. And I think last year getting knocked out of the chase was a little bit of a freak situation with that rear-end seal going out at Dover. And that's what makes this chase format so exciting and so tenuous for the teams, because you can have one bad finish like that, and you've got to be able to win. He would have been able to rebound and win under the old system. But if frogs had wings, they wouldn't bump their fannies when they jump. So, you look at the old point system, Jeff Gordon, I think, would have won 7 championships in the old system. So, they've adapted as well as anybody to changing rules, changing systems. He tends to like a looser race car, so I think over time this lower downforce package is going to play into Jimmy Johnson's hands. And I'm going to be surprised if they're not going to be a contender. And if I had to pick this early in the season, I'd be hard-pressed to not put him in the Final Four to go to Miami Homestead with a chance for the championship.
Yeah, I agree with that. 2 guys that I also want to talk about who were strong last week, actually won 2 finishes at Las Vegas. Brad Keselowski, that is, winning the race, and then Joey Logano finishing second. Phoenix has been a good racetrack for Team Penske lately. Other than 11th place finish for Keselowski in 2014, he's had a good string of top 10s. I mean, he's had about 10 straight top 10s besides that win. And then also Joey Logano has been good there as well. He has like 6 straight top 5s. Do you like Team Penske going into this weekend at Phoenix?
Absolutely. I mean, I like Team Penske almost everywhere that we go. Just like Kevin Harvick and the 4 team, they're solid, they're strong every weekend. And one of the guys on the pit, actually 2 of the guys on the pit box, Paul Wolf and Todd Gordon, they just have a knack for making the right call at the right time. Todd Gordon is always analyzing things and how can they get ahead. And, a race that I remember very, very vividly was Watkins Glen last year. They had an 8th to 10th place car. They came in off sequence on pit stops on something like lap 47, enabled them when another caution came out to take 4 seconds of fuel while everybody else took on tires and two cans of fuel, got him out front of the guys that pitted. And Kevin Harvick, of course, didn't pit, ran out of fuel. So in the absence of that, he finishes 7th or 8th. And there's other situations that you can look at with Paul Wolf. So I like them pretty much anywhere that we go. But if you're trying to pick a Kevin Harvick over a Joey Logano or Brad Keselowski this particular weekend, I'd have to lean toward Kevin. But either one of those are good, strong picks.
So it's safe to say Harvick's your winner then this week?
Again, you're going to be the man. You got to beat the man. and he had the strongest car the last several times that we've been there. He's won 4 of the last 5 and 5 of the last 7. And the second place finish last year when we had the rain out toward the end of the race, he still had the best car. So yeah, even though everybody else is going to pick him, you got to beat him before you're the man there, in my opinion.
That's right. Winston, thanks for joining us. Enjoy your weekend, okay?
All right. Thanks for having me on. You guys have a great one, too.
All right. Winston Kelley, everyone, lead pit reporter for MRN's NASCAR coverage.
I had no idea that he played fantasy racing.
He's good
I
at
had
fantasy.
no idea.
Yeah. I work with him every week on the pre-race show, and he's awesome to talk to about fantasy. Like I said, I go to him every week. Is this who I need to start?
Yeah.
So that's what I do. Coming up, we'll give our winners. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Inside Line, presented by Hercules Tires.
The Inside Line will return in just a moment.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job, our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
For a professional option of moving your trucks and heavy equipment safely, effectively, and on time, you can count on Housby Transport. We serve nationwide and global industry-leading companies through a network of experienced carriers. We provide both drive-away and hauling service, regardless of equipment size. We handle all permitting, making your transport and logistics job that much easier. For more information or to request a quote, contact us today at houseby.com. Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcasts elevate your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Welcome back to the Inside Line. Here are your hosts, Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
Thanks for watching the Inside Line today. Again, remember to join NASCAR.com's Fantasy Live MRN Inside Line League. I believe we're getting close to 900. My goal was about 1,000, so I had no idea this many people would join the league this quickly.
Yeah, 3 weeks in, and we're up to 841, I think. So Thank you for playing along. As we say it each and every week, and you can still join at NASCAR.com to search for MRN Inside Line. Before we get to our winner segment, we need to take a look at our loser segment for this week, which you were the star of. Earlier this week, Tyler. We had a little fun in the office this week. This is our video of the week. So here's Tyler thinking he can be a kickboxer. There's take two, and he didn't even come closer.
We need a little Kung Fu Panda music in the background.
Wait for it. There it is.
Slow-mo.
Here's the slow-mo. Here's the Kung Fu fighting behind it. It's brought us a lot of fun in the office this week, all in good fun though. So Tyler's a good sport about it, but as soon as I walked around the corner, I saw what was happening. I'm like, let me get my phone out, and I'd like to point out someone said this is not a good idea, and you didn't listen to it anyway.
Well,
there it is. There's the kick.
Well, if you notice, I'm getting a little bit slimmer.
I am too.
And I've been working on a kickboxing workout, 3 times a week or something like that. So I wanted to show it off, and it didn't look too great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our winners heading into Phoenix. I'm still mad about last week because I was this close.
I know.
To picking the winner in Kyle Busch. And that would have been a miraculous genius pick because no one picked him going into the weekend because they were not good in practices heading up to the race at Las Vegas. But my winner mirrors Winston's winner this week because for the mere fact is if we don't pick Kevin Harvick, our credibility might go down in the tank.
Sure.
If we don't pick Kevin Harvick on this because he most likely will go out and dominate the entire race. So Kevin Harvick is my winner this week at Phoenix. Again, he's one of two guys with a 100 driver rating at Phoenix.
And if you're going away from the Kevin Harvick route, if you don't want to go all in on Kevin Harvick this week, I'm going to take a look at Brad Keselowski. I think Brad's going to be my winner this week. An 8.1 10 race average finish at Phoenix, a 93.8 driver rating, 13 starts, 4 top 5, 7 top 10 finishes. His overall average finish is a 13.5, and he's led 119 laps. So if you're not ready to go all in on Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski might be a good, strong run this weekend. He's got 4 straight top 10 finishes here, and before that he had 3 straight top 10 finishes. So he's pretty good at Phoenix. Again, another short, flat racetrack. Guys like Brad Keselowski, guys like a Denny Hamlin, those are the tracks that those guys excel at.
All right, follow us at MRN Fantasy. You can use the hashtag AskMRN all weekend long. You can also follow us at MRN Radio. That's the network's Twitter handle. And we'll be tweeting stuff out all throughout the week.
Yeah, if you miss anything, we've got our guys in the field. So we've got photos on Twitter, on Snapchat. We'll have broadcast schedule reminders out all weekend long, full coverage on Saturday, and, of course, full coverage on Sunday of the Good Sam 500. I like this West Coast swing. I like going from Vegas to Phoenix to Fontana. I think those are 3 very different racetracks. Vegas may be a little similar to some of the other ones, but there's nothing like Phoenix out there. And California Auto Club Speedway next week, 4 wide, 210 miles an hour going in the corners, a worn-out racing surface. That racetrack is one of the most – it produces some of the best racing that we see each and every year.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. Practice is coming up shortly here on MRN.com, 12:30 Eastern Time. For our talented producer, Daryl Smith, and everyone on MRN.com staff, we thank you, Winston Kelley, for joining us today. He's Robbie Mays. I'm Tyler Burnett.
You've been listening to The Inside Line, presented by Hercules Tires. Stream us every Friday on MotorRacingNetwork.com or on the MRN app. The Inside Line is also available on demand at the MRN.com Media Center, or download it through iTunes or Stitcher. The Inside Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network.